Sandler Training Morristown. And just below us is Ed Delia, the namesake of Delia Associates, 50-year-old, although Ed's not 50 years old, started by his parent, Delia Associates. I'll be moderating today's conversation and discussion for about a half hour, after which we'll be networking, and we'll have an event for networking. But with our time being both valuable and limited, let's just jump into the discussion. Now, as we know, the vast majority of B2B companies have really never encountered the type of economic pressures that are shaping the current business climate. So I want to throw this first question to you, Ed, and then Cal, jump in whenever it's appropriate. What are the current business-to-business trends that you saw it developing over the challenging times of 2020 and continuing into 2021? And which, if any, do you see really accelerating and being more emphasized in the business climate? And perhaps which other ones do you see going away?
Sure. Thank you, Rich. So when we turn the corner from 2019 to 2020, the topic on most B2B brands' minds was sustainability in the environment, largely. That quickly shifted in the onset of COVID-19, and we have seen a real shift from really clean is the new green. So the clean movement is underway, and I would say it's part of an even larger and sustaining trend, which we call the purity movement, where it's not just about hygiene, it's about wellness, physical wellness, mental wellness, overall well-being will become and remain a driving force in how companies operate, not just for the coming year, but I think for many years to come. I think there's going to be some real sustained momentum around overall wellness, purity, hygiene, and that collective mindset. So what that means in the near term for B2B brands is, to whatever extent products or services can be aligned to support that movement, they will be well positioned. And we're already seeing signs of that with our own clients who have various links to wellness, cleanliness, overall health and hygiene. They are actually prospering through this pandemic because they are well aligned with that movement.
Okay. Cal, why don't you weigh in on the question?
Interesting. Well, first, guys, thanks for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here, and everyone else for taking time out of your day. We know you have lots, as United said, you have lots of other things to do in this hour. We're glad you spend it with us. And I'm glad Ed's here, because those are some pretty lofty things that I probably don't think about as hard as Ed does, but Ed's a thinker. I thought of it a little more, I guess, tactically. We've got a lot of fear, worry, and doubt going on. In fact, I mean, I know this is about 21 and what to prepare for, but I had kind of a disturbing interaction with the CEO of a company yesterday. And what that person said is, I don't want to say 20 is over, but, we're just going to toss it and start focusing on 21, which the second part of that I like, but the first part kind of alarms me because they're not doing the behaviors and the sales and the marketing things in 2020. I mean, there's still a lot of good business to be done here. So I think the fear, worry, and doubt has really paralyzed people. I hope that wanes over the last quarter of this year. I hope people get back to work.
Okay. That's great. Thank you, Cal. Now, I want to pick up on a little something you said, the idea of this fear and concern and uncertainty as we work through these latter stages, hopefully, of the health crisis we're facing. Customers and supply chain partners, both in the short, as you say, to take advantage of the last quarter of this year, even before next year starts, because there's 3 months of opportunity that are missed, and set things up for next year. They're really resetting both their short and their long-term purchasing habits and their patterns. So what are the more strategic things that B2B companies might consider to strengthen current client and supplier relationships and attract new prospects? Because their behaviors patterns have been altered in the way that they do business, the relationships that they have, even surviving to 2021. So what are some of the things you think that they're facing challenges, and what can they do? Ed, why don't you lead us off?
Okay, sure. Thank you. So that's very true, Cal. There is a lot of fear and worry and doubt in the environment, and that's going to stay until the tipping point moves more towards hope and optimism, which is where we all wish it to be for 2021 and beyond. In the short term, the reality is a lot of B2B sales and business development professionals are going to be faced with a lot of resistance in Q4 in terms of activity. However, I would suggest it's an awesome time to plant seeds for 2021 and set up a bigger 2021. I've had conversations with clients just like this already, saying, let's connect October, let's connect in November, let's set the stage for a bigger 2021. And everybody loves that. And everybody is really enthusiastic about that. As far as looking to 2021, it doesn't make a lot of sense to start your planning for 2021 in January of 2021. You start your planning now. And as far as the plan, I would say you'd almost have a plan A and a plan B. Plan A starts with the first 6 months of the year continuing as they are in the environment as we are, with the assumption that nothing will change. Plan B is, hey, if we miraculously get a vaccine sooner than anticipated, if we get back to environments and can be reconnected live again faster than anticipated, then we kick Plan B into action. But for right now, anticipating that the current environment is going to be the norm, at least for the first 6 months of 2021, and planning tactics out accordingly with that in mind.
Yeah, Ed, I love that. It is all about the planning. I'm actually listening to on Audible. I'm commuting a little bit now, so I get to have my books back. But I'm probably 90% of the people in this room have heard Admiral McRaven, and he did, I think it was in like 2014, he did the commencement speech for the University of Texas, Austin. And the speech was about make your bed. Well, in the book, he goes through 10 different things. And one of them was about there's always going to be a circus. Deal with it. Life's not fair. Move on. So I think in planning, and I like, Ed, that you said, a plan A and a plan B. I like to think of it as what's your home run goal and what's your double goal. What are the things you want to accomplish? And again, I'm really encouraging people, and a lot of our clients, Ed, are they're really focusing also on this quarter, but also in the next quarter. And some of the behaviors and the way they do things are going to be different. Not what they do, but how they do them. How do you do and connect virtually? The touch points and setting is something in Sandler, Ed, I know you know this, we call clear futures. Mm-hmm. Ed, could I, we're not ready. Can we do it in Q1? Sure. Is that the first week in January or the first week in February? Let's put a time and a date in the calendar and let's do it now. And I think, a lot of people are getting those plans. And, from my standpoint, they're getting their sales process in order. They're taking this quote downtime and documenting their sales process, implementing CRMs, and that's going to help them be a little more focused, I think, as we turn the calendar year.
Absolutely. Also, just another thing, and Cal, you've been a great teacher and reteacher of this because you don't get it right the first time. But
I don't get it right the first time.
Q4 is a great time for referral asks, I would say. And, if any of you in the audience haven't been to one of Cal's talks or been in class or in session with him, he has some great learning and curriculums around how to do that correctly and how to really make that part of your business development process and system. But asking for referrals in Q4 is a great, it's very timely for many clients. So something to be thinking about from a biz dev standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Ed. But it's absolutely, and that's one of the things, and we call that here we call that head trash, and you get a ball thrown at you. I can't call people, I can't ask them for referrals, it's not appropriate. Well, I think that's, frankly, to be candid, it's a lot of nonsense. My experience, and Ed, I know your experience, because you're one of the people that don't have their head in the sand. You guys have been moving forward, and you've had a great year. People actually want to talk. They want to talk business. They want to have some sense of normalcy. And we have in our heads, we sound needy if we're asking for referrals. Just the opposite. Think about how often, if you've introduced somebody, how good you feel. They're going to feel good about it too. And I think that's a real key in the absence of some of this in-person networking that people like, actively asking for referrals and giving them, right? The Go-Giver and Emerson's Law and all that stuff.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yes, particularly in today's environment, the idea of support and sharing is something that both on a professional and a personal level are greatly appreciated. So you touched on something that's very important, Cal. And starting to hear you talking about tactical approaches. When we think about sales and marketing these days, it's starting to be viewed as a different way than in the past. But the question is how much in what ways and how do prospects and customers view those things? So the question I want to ask you both, and you've touched on it a little bit. Let's expand on that. What are some of the most effective tactics? We talked about sharing and asking for referrals and things like that. But beyond that, what type of tactics can sales and marketing teams employ? And the marketing question would go to you, and naturally the sales to you, Cal. So how can those new relationships and opportunities be created in the year ahead, understanding the type of pain and concerns that customers and prospects are going through?
Yeah, let me take a stab here. I think that you said, Ed, that's you, and Cal, that's for you. And Ed and I have talked about this a lot.
Or
I think the number one, it's good. We talk to each other. I think one important thing is that I think a lot of people miss, probably not the smart people on the call today, but it's not sales versus marketing. We did a talk on that a couple of months ago. It's sales and marketing, and we work together. We're overlapped. We're concentric circles, whatever you want to call it. Often you hear the salespeople complain that, well, marketing's kind of out of touch. They don't really know what we do. And marketing says, well, salespeople are out delivering a message. It's not the appropriate message. So I think it's very important. And Ed, I'm sure with your clients, I know at Sandler we do this. We really engage the marketing folks and the salespeople together to get out there and do, again, whatever their behaviors or tactics are going to be. And we'll talk more about that later. Ed?
Yeah. So, at the core, when it comes to B2B brands, marketing exists. And it's very simple. To really boil it down, is to either establish or extend a buying relationship. So marketing should be completely aligned with sales, and marketing's purpose is to 100% support sales. So when they are not in alignment, that's problematic. As far as the tactics will always change, as we know, Rich, right? We've seen many shifts in tactics and how brands communicate, B2B and other. But I always advise people, hey, the foundational fundamentals of marketing don't change. And if you're looking for growth, there's only three ways to do that. You either get more customers, you get them to buy more of your goods and services, or you find ways to increase their buying frequency. Those are the only three ways that you can grow a for-profit enterprise. So everything you do from a marketing standpoint needs to be fulfilling those missions while completely falling in lockstep with sales. As far as the tactics, we've seen obviously an uptick in platforms like Remo, like we're on right now. So webinars, video, salespeople have to get comfortable with video. We actually did a few learning segments on that ourselves and teaching them the tools of video. Social media, and every sales representative really needs to see themselves as an extension of their brand and as a brand ambassador. So looking through all of the digital channels, when person-to-person contact isn't possible, replicating them through every possible digital channel, and really extending themselves and extending their reach through social channels, through use of content and video, and through use of webinars and other platforms like Remo, like GoToMeeting, like Zoom, to create and replicate that engagement.
Thank you, Ed. Cal, you made a very important point, and Ed, you certainly supported it, this idea of synergy between sales and marketing. And so the question let's delve into is, what type of marketing strategies should companies invest in to align those messaging and customer experiences with, say, digital channels and online that would enhance the sales experience? Because very often, in fact, we see some sales and marketing departments that are unified in a structural way within an organization. So what things nowadays, how can those teams interact, and what kind of ways can they share information and then provide experience for customers to be enhanced? What kind of tactics, particularly online, as you were saying, Ed, can be employed?
So I mentioned social media, and just to take that a little bit further, every representative of a company really needs to think about, and I'd liken it to thinking in the context of a tribe, right? And that tribe is comprised of customers, prospects, referral sources, and other supply chain partners that become part of that individual's tribe. And the stronger your tribe and the more you nurture your tribe, the better and the more you will prosper as a sales professional and as an organization. So starting to think that way and thinking about that tribe and starting to think about, what is that ideal persona in that tribe? What am I aspiring? What does that ideal prospect look like? Once you have that clarity, building a tool set out, predominantly digital, through content, social media, email marketing, social messaging, text messaging, to reach that particular persona of that tribe. So breaking it down and thinking very focused and very simple, you want to have a strategy and a plan to engage that persona. I see too many B2B companies that are doing social media for social media sake. For instance, if you're a manufacturer of complex components that go in aerospace, why are you celebrating, National Vanilla Ice Cream Day? It doesn't really do your brand much good. So instead of just doing social for social sake, having a plan, having a target persona, and working that channel with consistency. I'd rather see you work, say, just, hey, we're going to basically master LinkedIn and work one channel remarkably well than trying to do a multi-channel effort and doing bits and drabs and failing. So I'd rather see you execute with excellence on one channel and be focused and be dead focused on that ideal persona, and you will have success for sure.
Yeah, Ed, I love that. You call it ideal persona. We call it the profile of your ideal customer, your ideal prospect. And in fact, when new clients come to us, I ask them three things. Number one, what are some business and professional goals? I usually get a, huh? The second is, what is the profile of your ideal client? And typically say anyone. And the third one are, what are your prospecting behaviors? And they say, well, a bunch of different things. But I think it is so important because we waste a ton of time if we haven't identified our ideal customer for two reasons. Well, for one primary reason, most people, Ed does not, and other people on this call don't. They talk about all the features and the benefits. That's kind of a marketing and branding thing. While important, it's really, we have to understand what the problems are our customers have to figure out if we can help them solve them. Because maybe we can't, and then we need to go away. Because we'll go work on someone who has problems we can solve, and understanding what we call their pain points. So I think that's an important factor of understanding your ideal client. And also, I want to ask if there are other people. I don't know, Rich, if you've gotten any other questions. I don't want to make this a monologue or two monologues going here, which we tend to do.
No, and I would invite people in the general chat area to post any questions on the Q&A page. We don't have any yet, but until we do, let's jump to another question, and let's stay with the idea of online and social media. Somebody once said to me, social media is social first and media second, and that's the way that most people engage with that. And to your point, Ed, I don't want to find out about how to make an ice cream sundae when I'm thinking about a component for a particular part that I'm manufacturing. So I'm going to look to you two gentlemen. Let's talk and get a little bit more granular about the idea of, Instagram versus Twitter versus Facebook versus LinkedIn. Where do you see and how do you see outreaches? Because we often see companies that celebrate their employees on Facebook, but understand that in other environments, you want to present a more business-like and informative experience. So why don't you two gentlemen comment on that? And Cal, let's start with you.
Okay. So here's usually my answer. I have a marketing person. Her name is Susan. I say, I don't know, you're the marketing person, you tell me. That's usually my response, and probably maybe smart on my part. And I've got some head trash around Facebook. And I was talking to a colleague of mine. She's a very successful multiple business owner. And I said, it was funny because I don't think my fraternity brothers and my old buddies, I don't want them commingling, kind of like the old Seinfeld episode. But what I realized is all my old fraternity buddies and college friends and people I've known, guess what they're doing? It's all us old people on Facebook, and they own businesses, they own companies, they're senior, successful people. So I'm kind of, sadly, I don't tell anyone. I'm starting to change my mind a little bit on the media. And a quick story, we had a guy, Akshay Nadavati, look him up, Fear Vana, really cool guy. His entire social media campaign is all Instagram, which I just scratch my head over. So Ed, you can talk probably more intelligently to who does what and who should.
Well, in the business to business landscape, which is where we predominantly play as a B2B branding and marketing firm, it was always predominantly LinkedIn, Twitter, a dabble of Facebook and YouTube as the primary channels, and the lines were drawn pretty definitively between business and personal. What we've seen in recent years, even before the COVID pandemic, is a blurring of the lines. So people, you don't wear your, put your business hat on and then go home and you put your personal hat on. There's a true blend where we're doing, we're taking calls, at midnight with, India, and then we're, doing personal things in the middle of the day, and then we're back to business. So there's a fluidity of our lives, and that's reflected in the social media channels. So, if you really track back over the last few years, we've noticed LinkedIn looking a lot more like Facebook and Facebook looking a lot more like LinkedIn, just to use those two as a comparative. So the net out is for a B2B brand, both of those and the other channels are important. When it comes to Instagram and Pinterest and some of the other, what I'll call slightly more specialized platforms, then it really comes down to the demographic of the audience you're trying to reach, and are they there and are they active there? For instance, if you're trying to reach, a persona that's 50 years old and up, you're probably not going to use TikTok to reach them. If you're trying to reach a persona that's, 15 years down, yeah, that's where they're going to be. That's probably the only place they're going to be if they're not online doing gaming, right? Which is a whole other channel for them. So a lot of it comes down to that target audience persona. And again, if there's one point that I could leave you with, is nailing that target audience persona profile, or as Cal taught, the ideal client profile makes, and I don't know if you could speak to this, Cal, from a marketing standpoint and a brand development standpoint, it makes everything easier and work 10 times better. And you could probably make the same case for the selling process. Once you know who that ideal is, things kind of fall into place.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it kind of takes the guesswork out of it, right? Everybody is not, our prospect is not everybody. And I'll leave everybody with a tool that we use, and I know you're familiar with. It's called the CARE tool, K-A-R-E. You might want to write this down, because if you are very clear on your ideal prospect, your ideal customer profile, so KARE is actually an acronym for keep, attain, recapture, and expand. So identify the qualities of the people that you want to keep, because it's not all of them, right? It's always good to fire a client once in a while. Attain, who is it you want to go after? I'm not just going to go chase everybody. I want to be targeted, to Ed's point earlier. A is recapture. What are deals that we lost or customers that we lost over time that we want to go back and recapture? We know who they are. And expand. Ed mentioned this earlier. What are, as one of the things to grow, how do we expand and have our customers buy more products, more services? Some people call it a larger wallet share of what they buy. How do we expand our stuff within their companies? So that's a great tool. And again, to Ed's point on being target of understanding, be very clear on who you're targeting and why. You got to know why.
Absolutely.
Very correct. We're doing great on time. We have a few minutes left, and I thought we'll kind of bring it full circle, because we've been sharing a lot of great information with people in attendance today, giving them a lot of ideas and options. But we know that their companies are under stress. They're challenged from day to day to run their businesses. And now we have two great professionals here telling them all the opportunities they have to do sales and business. But very often these companies are great at doing what they do, but maybe not so much sales and marketing. So occasionally they'll look to the outside for professional help. What are the types of things that they should do, or the type of activities that they should conduct to look for a partner that can help them, an outside partner, professional, whether it's a sales firm or a marketing firm or a combination of the two, as we're talking about? What are the things that they should look for, conversations they should have, questions that they should ask when they're looking for somebody that, as marketing and sales help from the outside? Ed, why don't you start us off?
Okay. Well, so much of it has to comes down to having a good fit, and what makes that good fit is often experience and expertise, sometimes in their category, but certainly experience and expertise in what they're trying to accomplish from a business development and growth objective. So if you can clearly articulate where you're trying to go, firms can, the right firm can help you. What I would watch out for is any firm that kind of looks like a one-trick pony. So, for instance, we have a new client, and I know they were talking to a competitor of ours, and I said, why'd you decide to go with us? He said, well, the other guy, all he wanted to talk about was HubSpot. and we don't want to get involved in HubSpot right now. So, but they kept talking about HubSpot. So obviously they had, that firm had an agenda, and they are, we're a HubSpot partner too, but that's not all we talk about. We want to understand what the growth objective is, and then be unbiased and figure out what are the right strategies and then tactics to align that brand for success for that target audience, and be somewhat agnostic in our recommendation relative to meeting those objectives. So I would just be watching anybody that just sort of seems to be pushing one tactic too much, because that would imply that that's what they're good at and that's all they're good at. And if you need that one thing, if you're dead set, hey, I've got to find a HubSpot, then that's great. But if you're really looking for a broader set of tools and advice and resources, then that may not be the best way to go.
Very good. Cal, why don't you add in on us?
Yeah, good point. So I keep going back to the book, because I was listening to it this morning, and McRaven says, get help. These tough Navy SEALs, they survive because they get help. And his story was about, there's 7 of them carrying this large rubber raft all the time, and they need help. Absolutely true. Now, a little irony maybe, well, maybe not irony, but, Ed has a long history with Sandler. I try not to touch marketing except to get people to align them. I know that's not my strong suit. Now, whether it's us or somebody else, if it's not your expertise, then, boy, stick to what you're really good at. And there's all kinds of science and documentation on that. I think that's a critical thing, and be open to another point of view. The thing to watch out for, I had a client recently who had hired a marketing company, and he said, I get the sense they're not listening to me. They've got the graphics, they do this thing, they do SEO. They told me what they wanted to do. They really didn't listen to me. So if you ever get the sense, whether you're getting help from an accountant or I get accounting help too, that's not my thing. But I think getting help is absolutely understand your strengths and play to your strengths. If that's not your thing, then, find some help, and it'll save you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and, understand what your time is worth and where you should be spending your time and your money. That's my thought.
Terrific. Well, by looking at the clock, I can see that our half hour is just about up, and we've covered all the topics that we did today, something that very often doesn't happen. But today, I think we got a lot of good information on a variety of topics, both strategic and tactical for the coming year. And so I want to thank Ed and Cal for sharing that information with all of you in the audience today. With that being said, I see that we have a question from Mike Judson. It says, how many others are handling the fact that for many of their clients and prospects are not actually in the office? That's an important thing to do. So I'm thinking about something that we talked about a few minutes ago, and the idea of how marketing can reach out and do all of these things to reach out, but sales is a little bit different. How can sales professionals working with marketing departments insert themselves in those same marketing communications so that they become more the face of the brand in a human way, rather just messaging and sales talk, so that there's really a human connection, so that social distancing gets a lot smaller in terms of the virtual experience? Cal, why don't you?
Yeah, that's interesting. And one thing, again, I think there's a lot of head trash out there, and when we can't get together, we can absolutely get together. Is it a little harder? Sure it is. I met a guy in a park in Denville last week. We stayed we didn't spit or lick each other or anything like that. And, we were fine, but we have to have that interaction. We know science tells us that 55% of how we communicate is through our body language, right? Only 7% is the words. So we're at a huge disadvantage. So video, graphics, storyboards, telling stories, if we get our message out that way through third-party stories, I'm a huge fan of. And if we stay lined up with marketing on how we're delivering that, and we have a clear message that's pain-based, these are all the wonderful things. Someone in the program last night said, that 30-second commercial that somebody did, it was kind of dumb because they said, you're going to love our product. How would they know? They don't even know what the problem is. So sales and marketing needs to stay aligned, and we need to get out there and not hold back, I think.
Okay. Ed, why don't you add to that?
Yeah, I think that so they clients may not be in the office, but they're still online. They're still on social media. They're still reachable by email. They're still reachable by cell if you have their cell. So they're still reachable. So that means you can still engage, right? Further, the second part of Judson's point was, hey, a lot of these people, not only are they not there, they're not coming back. They've been let go. I'll offer, one or two of our largest and longest standing clients that we have is because those professionals were similarly let go, and we helped them find their next job. So using your network, and I think this is another sustaining trend off of the COVID pandemic, is always putting yourself in a position to help.
Yes.
So if somebody needs help, you go out of your way and you help them, because they will remember that forever. And if you say, you know what, I'm sorry, things didn't work out with this company, you're going through that time, let me explore my network. Let me see what kinds of connections I can make for you. If they work out or don't work out, it's really the effort that you made, the thought that you made, that is going to come back to you. So that's something to think about all the time. And, people that are in those positions, they need help. They need their network to be out there supporting them and advocating for them. And you can be that person and that white knight in their world that they'll remember.
Very good. Why don't we wrap up today's discussion with a question from Jessica, who's in our audience today. And she asked the question, what methodology do you use to define the right customer target profile? Ed, why don't you lead us off with that?
Okay, so I'll use Delia Associates as an example here. And I'll use Delia Associates as an example because for many years, we had it all wrong. We thought that our ideal persona was the CEO. And this is not to say for every one of our clients, I have a great relationship with the CEO. I can talk to the CEO. I'm engaged with them. They know what we're up to. We know what they're up to. We understand their vision and all that good stuff. But the problem is the CEO of a mid-sized organization has a lot of stuff to do. And they love brand development. They love our process. They love our work, but they don't have the time to really spend with us. So when our point of contact is the CEO, a lot of times our efforts break down just because they don't have the time or the bandwidth to stay engaged. However, the VP of Sales and Marketing does. And we've learned over time that that's a far better target persona for Delia Associates. Whenever we see that title or a similar title, that's what we latch on to. So it was really through some experimentation. And let's face it, at the end of the day, we're all something of a mad scientist in the lab. We're trying things, we're experimenting. So we had to do a lot of experimentation with the CEO persona to finally realize, you know what, that doesn't work. Or at least it doesn't work nearly as well as when we target the VP of Sales and Marketing. That works really well. So, if you look at any of our content work or any of the work that we're doing, it's all oriented to help those people excel personally, professionally, and as a corporation. So that's our mission. And, the great thing about that is there's roughly, by rough estimates, about 20,000 holding that or similar title in the U.S. So that's plenty of fish in that sea for us to spend our waking days. So it did take some trial and error. And also every quarter taking a look and reading the tea leaves and seeing, okay, who are our best clients? Who are our most lasting clients? Why are they? Where did that relationship originate? Where is that relationship at its strongest? Where is it at its weakest? And as we went through those oscillations, we came to that discovery. So it didn't happen overnight. It did take trial and error. But once we locked onto it, as I said, everything is aligned. Everything is moving in a faster and better way than ever before.
And Cal, why don't you take us home, so to speak?
Yeah, I'll be brief as I can. It's not my strong suit either. Ed, I like that you said you see who the customers are that you work best with, that get the best results, that love you and you love them. I mean, that's kind of cheating, but that's probably the best place to start. And what are the characteristics that they have? The others understand your strengths as a business and what are the things you do well and how do you match those up to the problems that those companies have. So you're identifying the kinds of problems that they have. And number two, we do a program called Team Storm where we identify all of those things. But then for us, who do we want to work with? I mean, we sort of have a little bit of a luxury because we get to choose in large part who's easy to work with, who does not require a PIA fee. We'll leave that. We won't record that one. Who pays us on time, who takes our advice, who has a growth mindset. So it's those characteristics as well as what the problems are that they solve. And are they going to participate? Are they going to take our advice? I think is important, because if they're not, what's the point?
That's right.
So I think there are a number of aspects.
Right. Well, thank you, Ed, and thank you, Cal, for a really interesting and insightful conversation today. I think one of the most important things that we've learned today is that things are more like they are today than they've ever been before. And in the year ahead, they're only going to be more of that way. So we have to stay sharp. We have to stay on top of our game, using social media, understanding who our audience is and what their pain points are. And if we need some additional help for that, look outside and make sure that you have a partner that shares your goals and your objectives. So once again, thank you. And thank you for everyone for joining us for this discussion today. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Matt Taylor, and he's going to walk you through what we'll be doing for the rest of the hours. So thank you, everyone.
Can I toss one thing in there, Rich?
Please go ahead.
There weren't a lot of questions, which is okay. We'll kind of be in the rooms and say hello. So since what I find when people don't ask a lot of questions, they may want to ask them or have a conversation one-on-one. So if anybody wants to do that, just put in the chat box, either to Ed or to me, if you'd like to spend 10 minutes on the phone over the next week and dive into some of these other things, or as some people like to try and debunk what we said because it was all nonsense and you didn't agree, that's fine too. But just put it in the chat, send us an email, whatever you want. Either of us are happy to spend a few minutes and do either of those things. So thanks.
You're welcome. And if you folks out in the audience have thought of some things that, in addition to what Ed and Cal have been talking about today, step down onto the floor, jump onto the table, talk to them as well. I see we have a couple of people on the screen that are saying thank you. So obviously there's some people that do agree with Ed and Cal and what we've been talking about today. So that's always a good thing. Well, we don't always agree either, Cal, but that's all right. We always have a great conversation. And that's what it's all about. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matt, and we look forward to seeing everybody out there during Network Hour.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ed, Cal, Rich, thank you. And like Rich said, we'll be on the floor in just a moment. Quick recap. You will receive a post-event email, and we'll include Ed and Cal's contact information in there as well, along with the website links and some other useful information. When we do exit the presentation mode that we're in here, you'll see the floor of tables. Just a reminder again, double click or double tap on a table to join one. You'll be able to discuss with just the people at that table. Other tables will not be able to hear or see you, so it's a closed network in that table space. And feel free to jump around, and you'll see the icons of all the people on the floor. You'll also notice on the sides of the show floor, you'll see the Sandler logo and the Delia Associates logo. Feel free to click on those. That'll take you to the websites as well. And with that, we're going to jump in. I'll be on the chat as well. If you have any questions or technical questions or having trouble, happy to help. And again, with that, thank you. And we're going to head to the floor now. Take care.
Thanks, Matt.